Whew, I didn't think there was going to be this many people here. First, I'd like to begin by thanking the Hill family for their generosity and their support, not only for their scholarships, but through the founding of the Century Foundation. The road to higher education and the road through higher education is not always an easy one, and you've made it easier for me as well as others. So on their behalf, thank you very much. When I was asked to speak tonight, I was kind of trying to figure out, I've never been to a banquet, and I've never spoken at a banquet, and what am I supposed to say? And so Carrie said, well, tell us a little bit about your journey, tell us about yourself, and also how the scholarship has helped you. The first part was really easy. I thought, okay, piece of cake. I'm 57 years old. Prince Charming dropped right out of a book and into my life, and I'm married for 26 years, and I have 4 children and 3 adorable grandchildren, and that was pretty easy. But then when it started talking about the journey, I sat at my computer for literally a couple hours, and I would type and I would delete, and I would type and I would delete, and I would type and I would delete. And in doing so, I realized that that's pretty much my journey. That I've gone this direction, and then I've moved in another, and gone and stopped and paused and stopped. I think maybe my journey had been different, and I'm hoping that my journey will be different from here on, in part due to the scholarship that I received. I've been taking classes off and on for many years. But because of the scholarship, I was able to actually go, now I can get my degree. Now I can go full speed ahead. But I hadn't planned it that way. I had hoped when I was a kid that I would be like my friends and go to high school and go to college and be something someday. But when I was 13 years old, my father came home and went into the bedroom and took his life. For any of you who've served in the military, you're probably aware of PTSD. But we didn't know that when I was 13 years old, what that was. And that's what my father had. And that changed everybody's life. A month prior to that, my grandma, who was living in our home, had died of cancer. So my mother, who was an only child, now lost her husband and her mother within a month, and then was notified later on that my brother had orders to go to Vietnam. My brother didn't go to Vietnam because he got a hardship discharged. But it wasn't a very easy environment to live in. So at 14, I left home. That was my own choice. I lived at St. Joseph's Home for Children, and I also lived in a group home. The next 4 years, from the time I was 14 to 18, it wasn't all that easy. And back then, people in group homes for children, weren't really encouraged to go to college. We just were trying to survive and trying to figure out how we were going to live once we left there. So I didn't really think too much about it. But the good news is I did graduate from high school. And in my 20s, I completed a program in welding in New Richmond, Wisconsin. And my plans actually were to be a welder, and then that would make me enough money so I could go to college and get a degree. But it was the 80s, and the steel industry was hurting, and I didn't get a job, at least not in that field. So I took other jobs. I talked my way, I don't know exactly how, into being a radio personality at a station in New Richmond, Wisconsin. I hosted a program, the Good Neighbor program, and that was once a week. And I also did sales in that. I also started my own company, and I hired a couple of people that probably wouldn't have been able to work elsewhere because they had some disabilities. But I still didn't have my degree. It wasn't until recently I lost my job that I really loved, working with a boy that has Williams syndrome. His mother decided that it was time for him to move into a group home because he was in his 20s. And it was time for me then to move on to something different. So I applied for the scholarships, and to be honest, can I whisper this so George Hill doesn't hear? I really thought that the people that handled scholarships are more interested in giving it to younger people, and that I really didn't stand a chance. So I actually wadded up the information after I had applied and threw it in the garbage, which meant I had to try and find that information again. And so it wasn't just the financial support, but just knowing that there was somebody out there that was willing to take a risk, and a 57-year-old lady, that she would be able to complete her dream at going into the field of social work, and then hopefully I'd like to go on to law school. I know some of you were going 57 years old and going to law school, but if my mother was here, she'd say, stranger things have happened. I know at the end of my journey here at Century, I'm going to miss a lot of people. I have a lot of instructors who have gone beyond what's been required of them. Kathy Gates, Carl Chung, John Otten, Carl Garretts. The list could go on. And I won't forget those people, and I won't forget the Hill family. I'm hoping someday, when I finally reach that goal, and I really don't know exactly where that goal is going to take me, but I hope that I'll be able to serve my community in ways that I couldn't before. Thank you again, and God bless you.